Hey guys, welcome to another bracket breakdown here on Ballin in the Boot. And this is a quarterfinal edition, Turkey Week. So there's always a saying here in Louisiana. If you're practicing during Thanksgiving week, you have yourself a really good season. And right now, all these teams will be practicing on Thanksgiving week. So let's go right into it with Division Two Select. Archbishop Shaw able to take care of business pretty handily against Ranger by a final score of 49-14. They will take on John F. Kennedy. That will be a very intriguing quarterfinal matchup. JFK able to defeat Lake Charles, probably a little bit of a higher scoring game. I think it was one of the last games to finish around the state of Louisiana last week. 51 to
So
37.
in character.
Yep, 51 to 37. So that will be Shaw and JFK in the quarterfinal of the playoffs. Madison Prep able to get a pretty impressive victory over St. Charles Catholic, scoring 34 points is no easy feat against St. Charles Catholic. So Madison Prep able to end St. Charles Catholic streak of consecutive state championships in a row with 5. Now Madison Prep will take another East Baton Rouge school in the quarterfinals. How about Ostruma going off the upset 42 to 16 over Haynes Academy? And it was a great win for Ostruma. Kyrie Paul played a big role into it early as Ostruma was able to really pull away from Haynes Academy early in that football game. And the bottom side of the bracket, so it'll be Madison Prep and Ostruma on that second pair. On the bottom side of the bracket, they have a rematch from a game earlier this year that was won by Edie White. It was a close ball game, 21 to 14. Both Edie White and Emmanuel Catholic will play once again. Edie White was able to take care of business pretty handily, 51 to 14. So was Emmanuel Catholic, 49 to 9 over Archbishop Hannon. In their final matchup, Leesville able to take on our reigning Gridiron Football Player of the Week, Bryce Restovich, and Loyola College Prep, 42-24. A lot of Xavier Ford in that one, as Leesville will take on Booker T. Washington. Just like we talked about Welsh earlier, Booker T. Washington able to take advantage of a buy off of a forfeit from U High. You heard the rulings from that. That was the big news of this whole beginning of this playoff bracket. So Booker T. Washington will, after a week of rest, will take on Leesville. So once again, here at quarterfinal matchups, Leesville will take on Booker T. Washington. The game will be played at Leesville. Edie White will take on Vanderbilt Catholic in a rematch from earlier this year. The game will be played at Edie White. Madison Prep will take on Estruma at Olympia Stadium in Baton Rouge. All Baton Rouge matchup between the Chargers and the Indians. And then finally, Archbishop Shaw will take on John F. Kennedy. So those are your quarterfinal matchups. Grant, I know this is a game that I believe that you're going to be covering for Crescent City Sports on Friday. Archbishop Shaw and John F. Kennedy. But you're looking at it, there's a team that could finally derail Shaw's season. I know Shaw's a heavy favorite in this bracket, but if there is a team that can do it on their side of the bracket, is John F. Kennedy. So, Grant, you're pretty familiar with the program. You've always been high on really both these two teams. So, what are your thoughts on this game? Who you think comes away moving on to the semis?
Yeah, Jay. Oh, yeah, Jace. Shaw, of course, is coming as the heavy favorite to advance to the state championship. Actually have them as my state championship, but these next 2 rounds would be very interesting.
Yeah.
No, let's say they win this game, they got probably most likely have to play with Madison Prep, and Madison Prep is a team that defeated U High early in the year. Of course, U High season's been derailed by forfeits and stuff like that because of everything that happened. But at the time, U High, their only loss was against Rumble, and this is a U High team that also beat Catholic, so it's a huge win for Madison Prep. So these next 2 games, we're even the state championship game 2 itself. We tricky for Shaw, but I mean Shaw is the overwhelming favorite. But Shaw has Jasper Parker's a great core running back, one of the best running backs in the country, coming to Michigan. The quarterback Mason Wilson, he's a bona fide athlete, of course. I mean, I think if he does play college football, probably as a running back, he's an excellent runner. But he's also an excellent thrower of the football as well. He's somebody that Coach Hank Tierney trusts. He's your stereotypical, spread option quarterback. And if this was the 80s and 90s, he would have been Hank's ideal quarterback. But they basically run the same offense that Hank ran in the 80s and 90s. It's just out of the shotgun. Basically, it's a spread option team. But and then they also have a fantastic receiver in Jacob Washington, who is another Michigan commit, 6'4", 200 pounds. He's a big time. He's a big receiver and a big time wide receiver also. But they'll be going up against the JFK team that's really good. I know JFK allowed 37 points against Lake Charles College Prep last week, but Lake Charles College Prep has always been the team that's been known to always make noise in the playoffs. Remember, last year they had a Cinderella run to the quarterfinals as well. And JFK, of course, Amon Dansborg, he'll be defensive back when he gets to college, but he's an excellent quarterback right now. He is the arm that can make all the throws. It's a matter of can he protect the football, right? Can he limit his mistakes? And JFK also has a lot of great receivers. I mean, of course, Kingston Jones was a lot. Louisiana Tech commit. Or I think he may have decommitted recently. I don't know, but he was a commit for Louisiana Tech earlier this year. Then you also have James Evans, who's a burner. You saw that in the same long game that we both went to. And then on top of that, you have Nahun Laleen and Jonathan Schreier, who are both excellent receivers as well. So they make one of the better receiver quartets in all of Louisiana high school football. But also have a solid defense as well. Calvin Sparrow, linebacker, Ernest Lyons, the cornerback. They got some good players on the defensive side of the ball as well. As a matter of can JFK be consistent enough each and every drive? Because if they are, they're going to cause Shaw a lot of problems. If they're not, Shaw's going to capitalize off of those mistakes that JFK tends to make. But JFK, remember, I know JFK is the 8th seed. They're coming in this game with a 7-4 record. But remember,
very deceiving.
Three of those 4 losses were forfeits.
Yeah,
right. So really, on paper, the 7-4. But on the field, they're 10-1.
Yeah.
So you have to factor that in, and I think this would be a huge test for Shaw because this will really be the first big time game they'll have in the playoffs. Last week you went against Loranger and they beat them 49-14. Now you're going against a JFK team that if here's the thing, if it weren't for the forfeits, I mean, you can say they were 9-1, they're a top 3 seed. But even with the forfeits, if if originally U-High wasn't let in the playoffs, say U-High, let's say wouldn't allow U-High in the playoffs, JFK would be on the opposite side of the bracket. And if they're on the opposite side of the bracket, I probably would have had them in the dome.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah.
So this would be a key matchup if Shaw. This would be the first big time matchup for Shaw in these playoffs. But I do expect Shaw to move on to the semifinals. Well, they're probably play Madison Prep, who are also in the semifinals. But Streamer can make these interesting.
Yeah, Grant, to your point, that was a good point I was about to make as well. That this is really technically a semifinal state championship matchup in the quarterfinals because, like you mentioned, with the forfeits, and there's one thing that it didn't really affect their season. What it does affect is the seedings, and that's what happened. That's what the biggest role the forfeits made in this instance, with them being an 8th seed. But I'm with you. I think the road is tougher. And no offense to Edie White. Edie White's a really good football team, and I've seen him this year play. But I think the road to get there is tougher than the actual dome because you have John F. Kennedy, who's an athletic team that can match Archers of Shaw's athleticism, and also Madison Prep. I think they're a dangerous team that can beat Shaw as well when they're at their best. That's the biggest thing, though, at their best because I've seen them. Alex has seen them when they've been vulnerable and their own worst enemies, not even the opponent they're playing. It's themselves. It's been penalties. It's been lack of consistency. When they're on and when they're rolling, JFK can definitely beat Archbishop Shaw, and there's no question about it. But that's the question. Can they be consistent enough? Can they not beat themselves? Because they're going to have to play not only a great game, but they're going to have to play a clean game. That's going to be the biggest thing for JFK. If they can play a clean game, they can beat Shaw. But I'm going to roll with Shaw right here. I mean, Hank Tierney has come back to bring Shaw another state championship out of retirement. And I think it's going to – I mean, it's going to sub that way. I call them Michigan South because their Michigan commits they got on their football team as well. Mason Wilson's an underrated piece to their offense. But you mentioned Graham, an underrated piece to their team has been their defense this year. And they've been really good all season long defensively. So just from top to bottom, the coaching, you got a Hall of Fame coach leading the way. You got a great offense, a lot of offensive weapons. Jasper Parker, who's been setting records at Shaw, running the ball, which is something that's you've done something, you've done that with the many great runners they've had at Shaw. So JFK is going to bring them. It's going to make it interesting. Their passing game, their explosive offense. They're going to make it interesting. Their defense is good, but I think Shaw is going to be a really close game. But I think Shaw is going to find a way to win and advance to the semifinals. Alex, you've seen his team too. You actually seen them in their
only loss, yeah,
field against St. Paul's. So from what you've seen and gathered from JFK, what do you think about their chances against Shaw?
I have a lot of thoughts about this game. JFK's. So I was there for JFK's only loss, and I think that might color my perception of JFK a little bit. That you guys were talking about. Oh, if they were on the other side of the bracket, I would pick them to make the state championship game. And I mean, maybe they would in that situation just because of the relative weakness of the other teams in the bracket. But I wouldn't have a lot of confidence in this team putting together a consistent and enough run to make the state championship. They might be the most talented team other than Shaw in the bracket. They might be, favored in each individual game. But the performance I saw at St. Paul's makes me not trust them very much in terms of winning games and consistently enough. If they give the performance they need to beat Shaw and they beat Shaw, they will not be my favorite to win the state championship after that, for example. I think they are too inconsistent of a team.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a large part of the reason why. This game, I talked about this earlier with Lutcher and Cecilia. This game is a glass shatter game if JFK can win.
Yeah.
Because this is the bracket more than any other bracket other than maybe the Haynesville bracket, the District 4 non-select, Division 4 non-select bracket, that has this feeling of oppression with the one team that's the favorite to win the state championship. Doesn't feel like anybody can beat Shaw. But if JFK doesn't, all of a sudden, everybody's got a shot. JFK has a shot. Madison Prep has a shot. Struman has a shot. Edie White has a shot. Leesville has a shot. Everybody has a chance.
Yeah.
It shatters and breaks open into a million pieces. That's what this would feel like. And it can happen absolutely. You could tell me that JFK loses this game by 30 points, and I would not be shocked.
Yep.
And you can tell me JFK wins this game and even maybe wins it, not like by a lot, but maybe more than a possession, and I wouldn't be shocked. This JFK team at its best is so good, and at their worst, it is not a great team. They can beat themselves up a lot. I'll go ahead and let Grant talk, and then I have more thoughts. But yeah.
Yeah, I like how you let a 3-8 versus 5 matchup cloud you. I get it because me and Jace both have said the same thing. Like a lot of times they shoot themselves in the foot, but also you saw a game where JFK went up against a solid 5A opponent. St. Paul's team, really, I think, Troy Willis, remember, Troy Willis was not in that game against Seabird. I think that had a huge impact on that game than a lot of people think. I know Cody Cross is a great running back, but Troy Willis also brings something different to the offense that Cody Cross can't bring. I'm not saying Cody Cross can't bring it, but Troy Willis is so diverse and skills where he can be lined up in the backfield. He can line up in the slot. I mean, he's also an excellent return. I think he also returns kicks for him as well. But think about JFK. They nearly beat a solid 5 opponent in St. Paul's on the road, and it took a 50-yard field goal by Drew Talley for St. Paul's to win that game, right? And then they played some other 5A opponents. The only other solid 5A opponent they did play was St. Amand. And St. Amand took a lead late. They came back and took a lead late, and then JFK found a way to win at the end.
They stole that one, man.
That was one of the more impressive victories probably that I've seen so far this season. Just the way that not only did JFK they got the lead, they lost the lead, but then they're able to have the mental fortitude to come back and win the game. And they kicked a 40-yard game-winning field goal. So I get what you're saying, but also remember you also did see a 3A team that went up to a 5A team with bigger numbers on the road, and it took a 50-yard field goal for them to beat JFK. Could JFK probably won the game? Definitely, because they made some mistakes in that game too. But let's not let that matchup cloud our judgment on JFK, considering that was their only loss on the year.
Look, I understand all of that. So JFK, I understand that really well because I'll be honest, JFK at times looked like the better team, which is crazy to say against St. Paul's. They looked awesome at their best.
Yeah.
The reason why I think what I think about JFK is that the reason why JFK lost that game had almost nothing to do with the offense.
Yep.
They beat themselves. They had genuinely 30 penalties in that game.
Yeah.
Like when one of my reactions when I heard the idea that the JFK Lake Charles college prep game was the longest of the night was like, yeah, that sounds like JFK because they had 1 billion points and really high flying offenses, and the offense took forever all the time because it was chunk play, holding, chunk play, pick. And then, each play, there's no running clock in between it. And there's a stoppage every time. And there are 40 penalties in the game, probably. That's what JFK's team is. And that's a team that can beat anybody they play. And it's a team that if they don't play, they could have beat St. Paul. They look maybe like the better team. But that is also a team that if they bring their their below average performance is the floor is a lot lower than a lot of these other teams, but the ceiling is a lot higher than a lot of these other teams. This JFK team at their best cannot just beat Shaw, but I think they're the only team that there is a world, not a likely world, but a world where they might even win by a little bit more. It's not a nail biter is my point. This team is so good. I'm going to take Shaw. I will take Shaw to win the game.
Yeah.
But it is so possible. It is so possible for JFK to win this game. This team is awesome when they aren't beating themselves up because it feels like it's regardless of opponent. And when it's regardless of opponent, you can beat anybody, absolutely anybody. And it's especially in a 1-game sample size. It can absolutely happen. I don't have the balls to pick them to win the game, but it's an awesome game, and they absolutely can.
As you can tell, my dog is going off right now.
Where are you at? Where'd you get a dog?
I'm at my parents' house.
Oh God, that's why.
So, Daryl, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, you guys have said. I feel like everything that can be said about this game. I mean, JFK is 10-1 on the field, as you guys said, and their one loss, it came down to the wire. It took a 50-yard field goal, as Grant said. So, I think this is one of the best games in the state this weekend, and I originally had Shaw going to the state championship in my original pick, but I don't know. Just hearing how you guys talk about JFK, because I haven't seen JFK or Shaw personally this season, but the way you guys talk about JFK, I think I want to roll with them. And I mean, we may be back next week and Shaw's won. I mean, it was no surprise to anybody, but I'll roll with the upset here, and I'll go with JFK.
All right. So so you're going with JFK, Daryl?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So Daryl's picking the upset here, going with JFK over Shaw, and if that's the case, I agree with Alex. That's going to shake up a lot of things if Shaw gets eliminated from this bracket, make this a more interesting.
If JK does pull this upset, I do think they become the new favorite. I really do. I said this before. If JFK did not get those 3 wins taken away from them, they are a top 3 seed. As a matter of fact, they were above U High before those wins were taken away. Even after U High beat Catholic, JFK was still above U High. So let's remember that. That's how good. That's how people view JFK at the time, or even the power ratings viewed JFK at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll shift our focus to Mass and Prep and Estruma, an all Baton Rouge affair right here. The Chargers having a great season. They defeated U High. They won the district championship. They've won a state championship before with Coach Williams, and they're coming off a very impressive win over St. Charles Catholic. I know it's not been the type of year St. Charles Catholic has had in the past, but they're still a really good football team that's went to 5 straight championships in a row, and Mass and Prep defeated that they're in that streak. And now they're going to play Estruma that's really talented, led by Kyrie Paul, the Southeastern commit. They're explosive. They showed it in the game against Haynes Academy, but kind of like JFK, they've been inconsistent this year. We've seen some highs from them this year. We've also seen some lows from them this year. So we'll see what kind of Estruma team that we get this year. They're going to take on Madison Prep. And Grant, I'm going to start off with you again for this one. Madison Prep, Extrema, all EBR affair. Who do you have advancing in this matchup at Olympia Stadium?
Hopefully, this game won't take 20 minutes for us to discuss.
I know it took us
but
the first game.
yeah, but Madison Prep, I think this game is very interesting. I think we talked about this before the show. Well, I think this is very interesting. Well, the Streamer's first quarterfinal appearance since 2003. Madison Prep.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's crazy.
It's been a while. It's been a while, yeah, and that shows you the job that Sid Edwards has done with that program. Also, while in the midst of a mayoral election, too, by the way. Madison Prep, on the other hand, has been one of the more successful programs in the Baton Rouge area. And they most recently they were I think the farthest they've gone to was the 2020 state championship game, but I think they also made the quarterfinals 2 out of the last 3 years. I'm not sure if I'm correct about that, Jace, but I got to double check that. But also for the reason is that these are 2 public schools from East Baton Rouge Parish. This is a very rare occurrence. Not only in the quarterfinals, it's also the playoffs as well. I mean, this is a very. I mean, if you think about this, like public, usually East Baton Rouge public schools aren't really the best at football. They're just not. Besides, of course, Madison Prep has been the only one that kind of broken that mold. All the others for a while haven't been good, and Jace can attest to that. But Extrema under Sid Edwards has become Extrema used to be one of the better programs in the Baton Rouge area for a very long time, but recent times, probably the last 23 years, they haven't really been the same type of program. But they've really broken through.
That's another thing too. They've been without football for quite a long time, and they just got back. So
when they reset the program.
So they reset the program. I think it was around 4 or 5 years ago, because they went to the JV stuff, then they went back to varsity.
Okay, like Jason, I think this is the 3rd straight year they've made to the quarterfinals, if I'm mistaken. Let me double check that. Second. It was second. Last year they make it, but in 2022 they did.
Yeah.
Let me check that too. Yeah. Okay, they did. Okay, so they've been made it far in the playoffs before, so I think Madison Prep will have more experience in these type of games. Like I said, experience matters when it goes to moving far in the playoffs. Which is why I have Madison Prep win this game, going to the semifinals. But I do think Extrema will make this interesting. They have a lot of talent. It's not just Kyrie Paul. Of course, Kyrie Paul is the headliner. But I know it's Haynes, but that Haynes game showed me that they have a lot of weapons. The receivers are really good too. The quarterback is solid. And really, Extrema should have beat Haynes Academy by worse. They just made some mistakes in the second half, and also because Kyrie Paul did not play in the second half. And speaking of Kyrie Paul, it would also come down to him because remember, he's still dealing with a hammy injury.
Yep.
Luckily, the good thing is he only played the first half in that game against Haynes Academy, and they played on a Thursday, so we get an extra. He's probably going to get an extra day's worth before the game. However, I think if Extrema wants to win, it depends on the health at Kyrie Paul. Now they got other running backs who are really good too. I saw that in the Haynes game. They had a stable group of running backs. However, Kyrie Paul is Kyrie Paul, and they're going to need him if they want to win that game, make the upset. But I got Madison Prep going on in the semifinals.
I got Madison Prep as well. I mean, they're more experienced in these type of runs. I think they've been more consistent. We see some ups and downs. It's kind of like we talk about JFK in some instances, right? When they're on. They're really good. They're tough to stop, but they can be off too. I mean, they lost to Brewery. I know Brewery's a playoff team, but they lost 7-6 to Brewery. So we've seen some highs, we see some lows. They're athletic. They can match up with Madison Prep talent-wise, but I like Tylen Johnson, their quarterback. I like their ability to run the football too with Alfred McKnight. Their defense is very talented. They're solid. So they're a really good football team. It's going to be a lot of really good matchups. A lot of really good talent on the field. But I trust Landry Williams. I trust Madison Prep a little bit more, especially they've been a more consistent program, and the Streamers just trying to get back to that with Sid Edwards and Byron Wade. Daryl, you've seen Madison Prep defeat U High for the district championship. So you've seen Madison Prep up close and personal. So what are your thoughts on this matchup?
I think it definitely is an interesting matchup with just how Extrema's been performing. They're coming off of a huge upset. They played a really good game. I mean, I mean, they were in the they had control of the game for the duration of the game, basically. And I mean, they had some momentum rolling. But what I saw from Madison Prep beating a really good U High team in the highest stakes of the regular season, the district championship, I'm gonna roll with Madison Prep.
All right, so we're going Madison Prep. Alex, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll make this quick. I think it's a little bit unfortunate for Estruma. I think I'm going to take Madison Prep here because the difficult thing is because of the nature of Haynes Academy as a football team this year, and the absolute lack of experience, they were kind of a mystery box, and obviously, objectively, they fell pretty flat when they got their test right against Estruma. The issue is we don't really learn much about Estruma from that game.
Yeah.
Because it could be that Haynes Academy is nowhere near competitive, and that game was never going to be competitive, and we learned nothing about Estruma, and we just assume Madison Prep is going to be the better team and win pretty comfortably. I think Green hit the nail on the head about the circumstantial interesting things about this being two East Baton Rouge teams pretty well. But is there a world where Haynes Academy is actually really good? And Estruma comes out and is awesome and has ascended and goes up and upsets Madison Prep because of that. Is that possible? That's a real game that we should be marking as a real data point and saying, hey, wait, Estruma, them, beating the tar off of Haynes Academy like that says a lot about Estruma. We don't know. It's the problem, and we're not really gonna know unless we, depending on what we see in the Estruma game. But I'll take Madison Prep because it's just the team to have more confidence and it's the team I feel better about, all of that sort of stuff.
All right, so we spent 25 minutes on the first half of the bracket. Let's see how much we spend on the bomb side of the bracket. But Edie White and Vanderbilt Catholic, this is going to be a rematch from the playoffs. I mean, not from the playoffs, from a game earlier this season. Alex, you're at that game. I'm about to go to you first here as we're weighing back on Grant. But it's 21-14. Edie White was able to get that win earlier this season. You saw them both play. I know Edie White's got a pretty long winning streak on Vanderbilt Catholic. Can Vanderbilt Catholic stop the streak? Or Edie White, who probably is, you can say, the favorite in the bomb side of the bracket to go to the state championship, do they prevail again? They keep that winning streak alive?
So the things to consider with this game are a few things. One is the health of Vanderbilt's quarterback, Jack Chestnut. He was not available in the game that they played just a few weeks ago that I was at, the Holy War at Vanderbilt. The other thing is that game was at home, and Vanderbilt lost the game technically by 1 touchdown, but practically by 2. Edie White separated in the fourth quarter, went up 21-7. Vanderbilt scored a touchdown in all but garbage time and needed an onside kick. That's how we got to our final score of 21-14. So Edie White looked comfortably like the better team, winning on the road, all of those sorts of things. How much does the quarterback make a difference? Because the backup that played, Henny, looks interesting. He showed some flashes. So is Jack Chestnut that much of a step up? We don't really know. Obviously, the big question is going to be around Jalen Coleman. He's the engine of that Vanderbilt offense, and Edie White bottled him up in the first game. Are they going to do that again? Does Vanderbilt come up with a scheme idea to get him the ball in space and get him the chance to break some tackles and be himself? They're going to need to if they want to win the game. They're going to need to be able to air the ball out more and more consistently hit those chunk plays. The only time they scored in the first game was when Ethan Henny went down and made chunk play to the big wide receivers and was able to move the ball down the field in that way. That was the only way they were moving the ball. They need to be more consistent and more able to move the ball in different ways if they want to beat Edie White. Because Edie White, I don't think Edie White has a high ceiling. They're like the exact opposite of JFK to me. I watched both of these teams throughout the season. JFK is all ceiling, bad floor. Edie White is slow and steady. They're not explosive. I think they completed 1 pass in the Vanderbilt game. I don't know if they had a single play of more than 20 yards. Maybe they had 1 chunk play. They're just slow and steady, run-heavy offense. They're going to milk the clock, win the time of possession battle. They're going to score 20-something points. They're going to play really good defense, and that is the team. I don't think Edie White is super capable of beating Shaw, to be honest, for example. I don't think the ceiling on the team is very high. But you have to hit a certain level if you want to compete with them. And Vanderbilt didn't really hit that level last time. And so the question is it a rivalry game? Is that going to make a difference? We've seen historically in a small sample size so far this season, rematches have tended to go to the original victor. I don't have a lot of faith in it being any different here, which pains me to say, as a Vanderbilt Catholic alum. But yeah, I think Edie White's going to win the game again. It being at home matters. The health of Jack Chestnut's going to make a big difference. I think if Vanderbilt does win that game, they're going to have to get some kind of consistent offensive protection from the quarterback position, whether that's Ethan Penny taking a step forward in another start. It was his first career start against Edie White. Whether it's that or whether it's Jack Chestnut coming in and showing a different level of play in that game. But ultimately, I do think Edie White will win the game. They just looked like the better team the first time. I don't think that changes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Edie White as well. I think they're more a complimentary football team. I got a chance to see them against Letcher. They're not flashy. They don't do anything sexy or flashy or anything like that. But what they do, they're just complimentary. Graham Barrera, the quarterback's a really good quarterback and manages the offense and makes some really good throws when they need them too. They can run the football, obviously, in that wing tee. Their defense is really good. Their linebacking core, I was very impressed with their linebacking core. Is as good as it gets. So it's going to be tough for Vanderbilt Catholic. They have to get Jalen Coleman going. It's kind of like Kyrie Paul. Like Kyrie Paul has to show up for Struma. It's the same thing. Jalen Coleman's going to have to show up for Vanderbilt Catholic in order for them to have a chance. I know it was a one touchdown game earlier this year, but I'm going to lean on Edie White. I think they're the best team in the bomb side of the bracket. I think they're the most complete team. We talk about offense, defense, special teams, stuff like that. So I'm going to go with Edie White here to advance to the semifinals. And they made some deep playoff runs before. They actually played in the state championship game where they lost to U High a couple of years back. When that was the weird year that they didn't play in the Dome. They played at Cajun Field. That was
the. I do just want to echo the linebacker point. They've got one linebacker. I forgot his name, but I think he wears like 7 or something. He's awesome.
He's
that
really
dude,
good.
That dude is
that
so
was
good.
That was the dude that stood out to me. He was.
And when they're matching up against like really good run offenses, like a Jalen Coleman type offense, and we'll talk about this next week when they probably play Leesville with Xavier Ford. The same idea. It's a really good matchup because that linebacker's awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He's legit.
Diedrich,
what was that, Grant?
Oh, where's it, Diedrich?
Yeah,
maybe.
I believe so. I'm gonna double check. But
I'm actually pulling it right now.
Yeah, while you do that, Daryl, who do you have coming out of this game here?
I'm gonna roll with Edie White as well. I saw them in a loss against Letcher, but they put up a very good fight, and that was against a Letcher team that at the time was really high on people's boards and even leading into the playoffs. So they put up one of the best fights all season, and I think this is just a good matchup for them, and yeah, I have Edie White going to the next round.
Yeah, it's Charlie Dietrich. Yeah, he's a really good.
I was about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, he
I just
stood
checked the
out.
roster. I know on Christian Sports, so
Yeah, he stood out.
Sports.
Now you mentioned, I remember calling his name multiple times at broadcast.
That dude is huge.
Yeah, he is. He is. They got a good linebacking core overall, good front seven overall. Grant, your thoughts on this game? Edie White, I know you mentioned they controlled the series the last couple of years. But here,
last couple, 10 years.
Well, a couple years, 10 years.
Don't tell me I was at the school the last time Vanderbilt won that game. God.
2013 was the last time Vanderbilt Catholic.
No, it wasn't. It was 2016. I was there.
Was it 2016?
Yeah, we'll see what happened in 2016. I can tell you exactly what happened in 2016. Vanderbilt won the game in the regular season and then lost the rematch in the playoffs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I missed it.
Probably what you were thinking about.
I was going up on Max, but I saw a game. Oh, damn, that's another L. Let me move on.
Oh, yeah.
There's an L. There's an L at the end of the season, but Edie White wasn't in the district that year, so they played at the beginning of the year, and Vanderbilt crushed them at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. Anyway, they've won a lot of games in a row.
I'm not mad. You're mad.
That streak continue, Grant.
Oh wow, they did. That's bad. That's bad. So Vanderbilt Catholic beat 41-7, and then they lost against the 24-17 in the playoffs. Damn. So okay, so it's been 8 years. So that's a wild dance. It's not a couple years. That's many years.
I was a freshman in high school.
Oh,
2018?
2016.
2016.
Yeah, that was my senior year of high school. So, yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, damn. Hey, wait. You're a class of 17?
16.
That was the year before you
Oh,
graduated.
so I was in college, my freshman year of
Yeah,
college.
you're freshman year of college. Jesus Christ.
Man, that's
Well, I was
crazy.
senior high school. What?
Anyway,
Wow.
going back to the game, Grant, does the streak continue?
Yeah, I have ED White going to the state championship. I do think it's going to be closer. It was a 21-14 decision the last time they played each other. It's been 8 years. This is the best Vanderbilt Catholic team they've had in a while. Something's got to give, right? I still have ED White win this game, but Vanderbilt Catholic can win too. Like I said, it's like I'll give a great example. Jesuit. So like, remember when? In 2021, although their wins were taken away because they fielded an ineligible player, Brother Martin had not lost a game to a team from New Orleans in 2 years, and that was that Jesuit team. I think was the number 2 overall seed that year. And Jesuit had not beaten Brother Martin in 8 years, and Brother Martin had beaten them twice the year before. And that it's been the last 8 meetings Jesuit did not win, and Jesuit blew Brother Martin out the door, and that was a great Brother Martin team. And that Brother Martin team probably should have won the state championship that year. Of all the teams, I think this is the second stretch of the first one was Ernest Smith and Bruce and Swilling and all those guys.
Right.
This is the second stretch where we had Gary Mamahad, Clay Leonardo, and they had a lot of really good players. And they got upset, and then Jesuit beat them by 2 or 3 touchdowns to upset Brother Martin. And I think it's a kind of similar situation. I think I know we expect ED White to win. Vanderbilt is the best Vanderbilt Catholic team that we've seen in a little while. And Vanderbilt Catholic can compete. Now, the only game where they seemed out of the game was against Lutcher. But even the ED White game, they played with a backup quarterback, and the game ended up being 21-14. So imagine when Chester comes back, how differently will that team look? Like Alex said. So I think that's what it'll come down to. But I know we still got 2 other matches we got to talk about. We are 37 minutes into this one. We're about to break our previous record.
One more. We just got one more.
Luckily, this one will take.
Leesville's got that. Let's end the show.
Yep. That feels about right.
No disrespect to Booker T. Washington.
All disrespect to Booker T. Washington.
I know we are disrespecting Booker T. Washington, but we're also not trying to disrespect Booker T. Washington. Leesville is just that good. They're just that good.
Xavier Ford is a tough man to stop, so good luck trying to stop him.
That's a match. So that's rough.
So we're all in agreement, Leesville. All right, Booker T. Washington. That is interesting. They're doing the same thing though with Welsh, right? Having the game being played, then having a bye, and then playing again. But
Welsh is different. Welsh at least is like Welsh obviously is a very good program. They've had a lot of success the last few years.
Yeah.
Booker T. Washington, they're the 18th seed, and the fact that they're in the quarterfinals. It's like, oh my God, we're in the quarterfinals. I don't think they expect to go to the quarterfinals. Welsh did. Because
there's also a really big difference in like the game we're getting in the quarterfinals instead, right? Welsh was a 9 seed that got a forfeit win over an 8 seed. That like they could have won that. They would have been on the road, but they could have won that game against Faraday. Who knows? Would have been a coin flip probably. Right. Booker T. Washington was an 18 seed that got a forfeit win over a 2 seed.
They're in the quarterfinals. I think they're more celebrating the fact that they're in the quarterfinals. I don't think really what happens in the game. I don't think it really matters. But Leesville's got a lot more to lose here. So Leesville's another team. They got Xavier Ford. Yeah, he's the best player on the field. Yeah,
He's one of the best players in this bracket. He's on the short list.
absolutely. He's one of the best players in his entire bracket. You got some good running backs here, Jasper Parker for Shaw. So
Jasper Parker. Yeah.
definitely up there. So yeah, I mean, there's some good players. He's definitely up there. But I got Leesville. So these are playoff matchups. One more time. So Leesville will be playing Booker T. Washington at Leesville. EDY will be taking on Vanderbilt Catholic. Madison Prep will be taking on Estruma, and then Shaw will be taking on John F. Kennedy. So this is your Division II select quarterfinal breakdown on Ball in the Boot. Check out our other shows at gridironfootballusa.com and also to our YouTube channel as well. We'll see you all next time. Another playoff bracket breakdown here on Ball in the Boot.